Dr. Jonathan Tripp joining us in studio. He joins us on Wednesdays between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, or one of his associates does. Call it Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine right here on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. And I, Bill Colley, am here to answer the telephones in case somebody has a comment or question for the doctor while he's in the studio. First of all, welcome back.
Thank you. Want to find out if anybody was listening last week. We talked about how to beat the kind of the winter doldrums, and want to find out if anybody actually did a little exercise or kind of balanced out what they ate or found a new way to make things better. In fact, I bet you a few people started vitamin D. I did.
Yeah. So. Take his advice, please.
So kind of segueing from that, if you did that, I would love to hear from you. But today we have another cause for moodiness. So I guess I'm the moody guy the last 2 weeks, but anybody ever called you hormonal or, blamed how you're acting on your hormones? That's what we're going to talk about today is, what does it mean to be hormonal? We sure blame a lot of things on it. And, guys talk about it very quietly away from, their female counterparts, and women talk about it openly and blame the guys for being hormonal as well as themselves. And so, a lot of touchy subject here, but, a little bit of fun I hope to have, make it a little lighthearted. I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm really saying, we blame a lot of stuff on what we call hormones. So, what is it? What's really going on, and what is this moodiness stuff? So, if you have experiences with either being or knowing people that are hormonal, which would be everybody out there, give us a call. Let's hear your story.
So, and we talk a lot about imbalances, don't we?
Yeah, chemical imbalances in your brain or imbalances of your sex hormones, or and by the way, sex hormones doesn't just mean hormones that drive you to have sex. Sex hormones just means the hormones that distinguish you as a man or a woman. So when I use that term, I don't want you to think I'm the new love doctor. How's that?
Yes. That could be the second show we watch.
No, we'll get to that on the week of Valentine's Day. We're going to talk a little bit more about the love and the mood and things like that, but that's not today.
We have a caller with us, and caller, you're on the air with Dr. Jonathan Tripp on News Radio 1310 KLIX. Go ahead.
So my question for the doctor is actually about very young kids that aren't old enough for puberty. We've got one of our kids she every month it seems has her brain just shuts down. It's a monthly thing. She's only 8 years old. So is that something? Can you check hormones?
And it's pretty consistent.
In a child, yeah. We should start journaling.
Yeah, so you can predict when it'll happen.
Her doctor just kind of you say something and he just doesn't think it's a big deal, but
he doesn't live with her.
That's right.
No, I think number one, I would just, like you said, start kind of documenting or journaling when it happens. And if there's a real consistency to it, I think every bit there's a possibility that is being affected by what else is going on in the house. I'll give you a quick example, not of 8-year-olds, but of 18-year-olds. College dorms, girls that, were exclusively in a girls' dorm or just roommates in general will tend to all fall into a certain time frame for their menstrual cycles, and that's only because they're around each other. So could your 8-year-old be affected by what's going on with you or her mom or whatever else is going on in the household? I think absolutely. It might be a tough blood test to do, but I think the journaling will help a lot in discovering what's going on there.
All right.
There's more to talk about on that for her, but I think that's a great beginning.
I want to thank him for the telephone call as well. And, you talk about kids in puberty. I was shaving at the age of 13. It was spotty. I mean, I had areas on my face that were still not filled in, but I had to start shaving and learn how to do that at the age of 13. Some people, maybe it's 12, some people it's 15, but it's all when that really kicks in, right?
It sure can be. In fact, a couple of fun things, as long as we're talking about kind of pre-adolescence. A young girl who has no father figure in the home will tend to start menstruating on the average age of 10, whereas a girl that's raised in a home that has a father figure, often the average age isn't until about 14. So there's a big difference, almost a 2 to 3 year difference in when menstruation usually starts, and that's just simply by having a father figure around. So that's a big deal. And so it is affected by who we're around.
We got about 30 seconds before the break, but I'm going to try and get a caller in here so the caller can at least get the question on the air before the break. You're up next, and you're on the air with Dr. Tripp.
Yeah, my question for the doctor is, I have a 21-month-old child, and she has strep throat, and she will not take her antibiotics. She just spits them out. And our doctor said that she has to take them or the infection will just keep on spreading. Is that true, or what can I do?
Okay, that's a great question.
We may have to answer
Yeah,
that.
let me answer that after, so hang on and I'll answer that question for you.
I want to thank him for the telephone call, too, as well. We have a short break coming up, but more with Dr. Jonathan Tripp on the way. Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine right here this morning between 8:30 and 9 o'clock on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Dr. Jonathan Tripp joining us in studio. He's here until 9 o'clock this morning. You're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. The latter means you can hear us anywhere all over the world by listening online and listening live. And, of course, we will likely have a video of this show available, too. In fact, I should point out the doctor's been collecting a number of those, and he's got a whole series. We're going to release those one day, I think, in some disc or something like that, so people can follow all of that.
That's right. We're going to sell them.
Yes. Or we'll be able to see them at your office. We should point out your office is on Fillmore Street, too.
Yeah, we're right across from the post office on the north side of town. And if you're used to driving down North College, it's now blocked off just after Fillmore. So going by CSI there is a tough pass, but coming by behind, let's see, from Costco down to North College is a road Fillmore, and we're right in the middle of that. So
we need to point out, too, it's a much shorter wait to get into the doctor's office than it is for the construction on that street.
Yes, it is.
So it's only sometimes a same-day service.
No, in fact, frequently. And if we have somebody that's sick or, in pain or has an immediate urgent need, we try to get you in the same day. And most days that's true. I have myself, and I have most days 2 other physician assistants or a nurse practitioner with me. So there's I won't say an abundance of openings, but definitely if people are in trouble, we get them in. We had a great example, 2 people at the end of the day, both of which really needed ER or ER-like service. And so, if you're in trouble, or like we're going to talk about a little kiddo with strep throat.
21 months old.
Yeah, we'll get you in today to get that fixed up. You don't need to go to the ER or urgent care. You can come and get seen by somebody or at least would like to know and have an established relationship with.
This is difficult because a 21-month-old, you can't really explain that this is good for you. You have to do this.
Yeah. There's with strep throat, what's really interesting is we always have been raised with the idea that, you got tonsillitis or, sore throat, and so we give you antibiotics to cure that, which is true. But there's a deeper worry to strep throat, and that's why getting the antibiotics to this little kiddo is so important, and that is the toxins from strep can attack your kidneys, can attack your heart valves, and actually create lifelong troubles. So strep throat, actually, if you let it go, it'll take care of itself, over the next week or 10 days, and you'll kind of say, well, did we really need antibiotics? And the answer is not for that moment, but it's the what else it can do, like the old days we talk about rheumatic fever, and that's really damage to the heart valves that long-term causes things like heart failure. So the answer to this gentleman's question is there's several ways around this. Having been a father of a 21-month-old, I have some personal tricks that I might try to teach in office. In fact, let me give a phone number for the office. It's 933-4400. That's 933-4400. You can also reach us at trippfamilymedicine.com on our website, as well as our Facebook page, which is Tripp Family Medicine. But I have a little trick that, you use a syringe and you just put 1 milliliter at a time in the child's cheek, or maybe even a little more. And if they're really young, like under a year, you can blow in their face just at that time, and it'll startle them, and they'll swallow, without aspirating, without choking on the medicine. The 21-month-old is getting close to the 2-year mark, and they're a little more savvy. So you may just have to really work to get that in other liquids, a drink or something. But if all else fails, we can turn around and do a penicillin-type shot called Bicillin. It's a one-time injection. It is thick. People remember it like peanut butter in their rear end. but it's a one-time shot, and you're done with the treatment. You don't have to fight through the 2 or 3 times a day of administering an antibiotic. So that's a pretty straightforward solution.
We've been talking about hormones and imbalances and the like, and people's how they affect people's moods or their and sometimes their health directly. And yet there are all sorts of treatments we've developed over the years that can really dramatically change things for people.
Yeah, let me tell you about a few hormones, because what is a hormone? We usually think of things like, estrogen or progesterone or testosterone as hormones, and these are a type of hormone that determines how our, gender is, whether we're male or female. But a lot of things we don't think about as hormones, like your thyroid. That determines a lot of your metabolism. It tells you, do I have enough energy to do this? Am I feeling fatigued? Do I have trouble sleeping? Is my heart race? Am I gaining weight? All of that's affected by your thyroid. There's another one called parathyroid that affects how much calcium is in your bloodstream, and thereby can either help you build bone density or rob your bones in order to maintain appropriate calcium in your bloodstream. So, that also will have side effects of feeling ill or run down, or you may not even see it. It's more of a blood test that your calcium's too high, and then we have to go looking for an abnormality of the little parathyroid hormone. In fact, a lot of people say, "Where's the thyroid?" And the thyroid is a little gland that actually sits kind of at the bottom of your neck, just above your collarbone, and you can't even hardly feel it. It's tough to identify unless your thyroid grows too big, and that's called a goiter. So that's one hormone that's like that. And the parathyroid actually are like little M&M size glands that sit behind the thyroid, so it's not one you'd see, but that's why it's called parathyroid, because it's next to the thyroid. Insulin, controlling our blood sugar. Insulin's a hormone. When you're pregnant, there's one called HCG, and human chorionic growth hormone. That's what we watch as physicians to say, how's your pregnancy developing in the early stages? Are you building this HCG level to maintain the pregnancy? Um, Vitamin D is we think of that as a vitamin. That's often argued as a hormone, and that has a direct effect on mood. We talked about that last week for mood in the wintertime, or our lack of sunshine. Um, let's see, endorphins. That's a fun one to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says, "What's an endorphin?" Well, endorphin really is a type of a hormone that is narcotic-like. Not that you get drowsy with it, but it has a feeling, can add euphoria. In fact, people that are big into exercise will often talk about they they exercise for a little while, maybe like a runner will get to about their third mile, and so this is now 30 minutes, 40 minutes into a run, and all of a sudden they get this surge of energy and feeling good, and
I,
that's actually an endorphin that kicks into your brain and says, "Hey, this is a good thing. We like this."
I'm not a runner, but I had to move some things into a storage unit the other day, and so I was carrying them down a long stairway, loading them into the Jeep, and I did this on several occasions, but up and down the stairway. And within about 20 minutes after I did that,
You felt
I
good.
I had that feeling come over me.
Yeah, no, this is it's a great testimonial to a little exercise goes a long ways, because you don't need to run 3 or 4 miles to get this. You can do some, like you said, you did some lifting. You did a lot of stairs for a little bit, and a short, or what's it called, acute exercise, meaning short, brief push, will often reap the reward of, I feel really good after doing that. And like you say, 10, 20 minutes later, you're still kind of buzzing along thinking, man, I like how I feel. So that's endorphins related to exercise. It happens with other things as well. And you spoke about imbalances that we talk about.
Hmm.
A lot of our medical focus on depression, anxiety, is on looking at certain chemicals or hormones called neurotransmitters, things that you'd recognize, like adrenaline. That's actually a transmitter between nerves. It affects a lot of things, but at least it helps communicate between nerve cells to pass a message along. There's some others called serotonin that are directly affected by a lot of the medicines. You might know the name Prozac, or groups, medicines in that group. There's one called GABA, which, well, I call it the feel good. It's not a endorphin per se, but it is definitely one that, the world's just a little better place when you got a lot of GABA around. And so, a lot of nutrition stores will sell they'll actually put their capital letters GABA on a supplement and say this is a GABA producing herb. And the truth is there's no real proof behind those, so I can't say go out and get a bunch of herbal products that say they produce GABA. But that is what GABA does. You just the world's a little better place, and a little sunnier day. That's the way I look at it. So these are a lot of different ways that different types of hormones. But we blame hormones on every mood swing in the world. And so that's kind of what I was asking for callers to say, hey, give us how you've gone. This your example of the exercise of hiking the stairs and moving things. That's one. Um, but a lot of times, people will say, I don't know why I was acting that way. And then they'll try to trace back and say, what else is going on in my life? Or, you know, in particular, women will say, well, let's see, am I almost in my menstrual period? Am I in my menstrual period? And so that'll get blamed a lot. And sometimes that's true. In fact, if you've journaled or kept a diary of if you have persistent or consistent mood swings, sometimes you can identify and say, I can predict when this is going to happen. And that's when a physician really can help out and say, hey, let's do some things that we can, plan for those few days or that week that is your tough week. So that's one that seeing a physician would really maybe be a benefit to you. Um, and a lot of times it's just identifying, knowing what's coming. You can take care of it yourself. I'm not saying everything needs a pill, that's for sure.
854, Dr. Jonathan Tripp is in the studio with us. Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine this morning. You're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you as well, handling the telephone and the number 736-0300. Got 23 right now, so if you're getting ready to go outside, remember it will be a little chilly start to the day. And we want to point out a couple of other things too as well. A lot of these treatments, they're fairly simple if you need to, to restore a particular level. Some, on the other hand, not so simple.
Yeah, especially if somebody gets into kind of a depression. And a lot of times, if you're real good at being self-sufficient and a hard worker, depression you'll often deny is even existing. Things just won't they just will continue to not go right for you. Come ask, get some help because a lot of times depression needs temporary treatment. It's not a lifelong or a life sentence. And getting out of that is really important. So there are some times that, as you have these depressed feelings, you have a decreased supply of some of these neurotransmitters we're talking in the brain. And so theoretically it is a chemical imbalance, but it's induced by how you're feeling already and it becomes a downward cycle. So sometimes we just support that to bring back kind of those levels. Serotonin is one we talk of a lot. And by doing that, it's a retraining of your brain to say, hey, this is the normal. Let's get back to normal. And so that is one of those things that, a hormone, or in this case, a neurotransmitter type hormone, will really make a difference in your life and, make things a lot better.
We have a caller with us. You're on the air with Dr. Jonathan Tripp from Tripp Family Medicine.
Hello. Yes, I wondered, Doctor, do you do bioidentical medicine?
Yes, I do. In fact, I was just to give you a brief background, I was very antagonistic. I went along with the rest of the medical community in 2003 when the Women's Health Initiative study came out and said it was all bad and every doctor should stop giving estrogen, progesterone, or things like that. And then the pendulum has kind of swung back. But as part of that, I did some intensive study as well as taking some courses that were evidence-based and found out, there's room for hormone replacement. There are risks, and they can be very threatening risks, so I go over those in detail in my office. But I am kind of a believer if you're going to do hormone replacement that you ought to focus on what's called bioidentical. In other words, you're using chemicals that are the exact same molecule as your body produces rather than an adjusted version.
You do it for men, too?
Yeah.
Great.
Want to thank him for the telephone call. And of course, that's because it's the same idea. If you know you're going to have surgery, save some of your own blood, right? It's better for you in the long run.
Well, that is a great option that we have today. Didn't used to have that. But it's true. It's hard to get infected by your own blood. And even though we go through very rigorous uh, cleaning, testing of any donated blood, there's always a possibility that there's something that we didn't catch. That's so getting your own blood ahead of time would be a great move. There's I wanted to throw in one more thing, and that was about pheromones. People want to know, you know, do they really attract each other? And the answer is yes, they do. But how do we adjust those? How do we change those? And a lot of it has to do with food and exercise. And if you want to feel good in general, and you want to get your hormones working right for you, exercise and eating kind of a balanced meal, not heavy carbs or heavy meat or heavy uh, um, one way or another. You really go for balanced. It is moderation in all things, and that exercise, I can't tell you how much that makes a change in your whole body.
Want to thank Dr. Jonathan Tripp. And we'll see probably Russell next week or
You know what? I think it is Russell coming next week. So, but plan on Valentine's Day, and maybe then I'll play the Love Doctor.
right. News is coming up next from Fox, and more of a top story with Bill Colley in the next hour as well.